All right, time to talk about Candyman 3, Day of the Dead, and wrap up this trilogy. Quotations with three fingers for a trilogy. That's going to be a new thing. Not. This movie was pretty dreadful. I remember it being bad. Everyone's told me it's bad. Now, I think what we need to take into account here is that I'm a pretty fair critic and I like a lot of shit. I will be the first to admit that my tastes don't line up with the majority of people and I like quote unquote bad movies. There's all sorts of sequels in franchises that I like more than the original, like Pet Sematary 2 and Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and Blair Witch Book of Shadows 2 and Book of Shadows 2, Blair Witch, whatever the fucking title is, but Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2, there it is. All right. And many, many more. So I know that I don't have the greatest taste. Trilogy taste? No. But yeah, no, this movie was just bad. Like, there's no disputing that in my mind. But it's not all doom and gloom, so let's get into some of the things that I did like versus most of the things I hated. Much like the other one, the first movie, Candyman, is 45 minutes in. The second movie is 7. The third one is 2. So it always gets quicker. Gotta see him. If they made another one, he'd be opening shot. His face would be the opening shot. This one has a much lower budget than the last one, or the other, the last two. It's severely cut, and it shows big time. Now, that doesn't mean this movie has to be bad, or I'm blaming it on the budget, like, oh, this is a cheap film, so it sucks. I've seen plenty of cheap films that I really enjoyed. The last series I did, the Warlock series, I really enjoyed the third one a lot. I actually said I liked it as much as the first one. And I did, and the first one had a much bigger budget. The second one had the biggest budget of all three. And I thought that was the worst of them all. So a budget doesn't mean anything. If you tell a good story and you do it well enough, it doesn't matter what your budget is. You could fucking make a movie for $50 and it'd be better than a movie that cost $100 million. So, yeah, that's not the problem here. His backstory is mostly retained, when they talk about it, but they do change one thing in this where he was tied to a tree and then the bees were applied and they reshoot that. And I'm just wondering why. It doesn't serve the story at all to change it. The only thing I can think of is they wanted to show him up on the tree and reacting and having the pain so that we could feel the sympathy for him and she could have her flashbacks, and they couldn't use footage from the last film. But why change it? Why not just put him back on the ground and throw bees on? Like, why are they tying him to a tree? That's where you see, when it comes to continuity errors within film, most people, especially in the horror fan community, don't seem to care. They're like, who cares? But when it comes to television, then they care. Like, if you were watching a television series and one episode ended with this going on, and then in the next episode, it completely disregarded what had happened in the last episode, you'd be pissed off. But in film, a lot of people seem not to care, and I don't understand why that is. But whatever. I was just thinking about that today. So when he was tied to the tree in this, I was just like, why? What purpose does this serve? You want to retell it? And the only thing I could really also come up with, this is me just trying to overthink things to try to help them out, is maybe because Candyman is a legend and stories get passed from person to person like a game of telephone, the story isn't exactly the same either way. But and so when we see it through from this person's perspective, it's told this way, where he was on the ground and they cut his hand off and they put the bees, and then in this one but he is showing her his pain at the end, and he shows her him hung on the tree. And in the last movie, it's pretty clear that this is actually what happened. So, as I said, it's fucking stupid. It annoyed the shit out of me. Something that I did like to see in this movie was Daniel Robitaille, the Candyman's paintings. He'd been talked about as this amazing painter in the last two films. And it was nice to see his paintings. I'm pretty sure those were just pictures with some modifications made to them to look like paintings. I doubt someone painted all of those to look exactly like the images. But whatever. I mean, he's a Rembrandt, and that's okay. And I like to see a little bit of his relationship with the love of his life in there. He's like painting her. She's there. She's on the thing. They're doing the Titanic scene. She takes off her top. He's painting, flicks his hair away. Okay, maybe not that. But I liked that. I liked seeing their relationship more so than we had in the past. And other things I liked, there was some good nudity in it. That's a stretch, but always like it. I think that's about it as far as my likes go. Now getting into my dislikes. Ooh, got a minute? I'm not going to try to sit here and bash the movie for too long. The acting, the dialogue, which is to be expected, I suppose. But because of the quality of the last two, it's such a downgrade that it's a shame. Because, as I was talking about with the Warlock film, the third one, it's the lowest budget by far, and I think it has the best acting of the series. So it doesn't just mean like, oh, it's lower budget, so they couldn't afford the better actors. And this, no. They picked a Baywatch star, first off, okay? Baywatch is not known for its acting. And she just was a dreadful character. Her performance is horrible. Everyone's performance in this is terrible. There's like not one person, not even Tony Todd, as Candyman in this. He is not good in this. Like, if this was his only movie role as Candyman, this would not be, Tony Todd's memorable series or role. And not just because of the movie, but because of his performance. They'd be like, oh, let's not talk about that movie. So everyone is bad in this movie. And the dialogue they give is just so stupid. The incest thing is here retained again. And as I was trying to maybe defend it in the last one, well, maybe, he wasn't actually trying to have a sexual relationship with Annie. Well, here is his great, however many, great, something fucking granddaughter, and he's making out with her. And why he needs her permission to kill her? Like, be my victim. Like, does her giving himself to him then make them together? I guess. I mean, that's what I'm guessing I have to take from that. One other thing I did like, even though I do not consider this as part of, the canon of the story now, I will only view the first two as, the official real story. This is almost just like I don't know what even to consider this, to be honest. But I do like the idea that this is based on Annie's daughter that we see at the end of the second movie. It makes sense. It's the most logical character. This is supposed to be set like 25 years after the events of part 2. And so, as I said, it makes sense. Why he wants to kill her and why he needs her permission and why, like, that kind of stuff is so unclear. The detective in this movie is absurd. Like, he has a crush on her because she doesn't reciprocate those feelings. He, like, slaps her across the face and wants to kill her. And because in the last two movies, there's setups and especially the first one, there's setups where she will get framed for the murders. He's taken everything from her. She will have no life left. And there's no exception here. Same thing happens. He's framing her for the murders. She's going to look like she's the one who's... And they had to have a patsy for that. And that's fine. And that makes sense. And it's a good idea to have a patsy to fall back on at the end so that she can actually get back to her life. A lot of movies don't even bother addressing it. You know, where the killer, the supernatural killer comes in and kills everyone, and then they're left with the bodies, and they're like, oh, thank God we made it. And it's like, yeah, but you're going to prison because everyone's going to think you did it. But they always ignore that kind of stuff. And in this one, they actually try to be like, hey, look, we're going to pin it on the detective so you can go back to your life. You have a patsy to fall back on, which is a good idea. But the way he's handled, his motives are so unrealistic. Really, the only thing I can come up with is he brings her flowers and she's more into this, hoodlum as he sees him than him. So he's mad and he goes and he finds her and he slaps the shit out of her in front of another cop who doesn't seem to care. And when he tells him to calm down, the guy walks away and he's like, God, get a sense of humor. And it's like, did you tell a joke? Like, you just slapped a woman across the face. Someone in your custody. That scene is so dumb. This whole fucking movie is stupid. But at the end, he comes to kill her with the hook and all this. And I'm like, for what? You're a disgruntled police detective who this girl didn't like. So you're going to lose your job and kill her and basically admit to being Candyman because he's like Candyman at the end. It's like his Rosebud moment. We got a Citizen Kane of fucking horror franchises here. It just doesn't make any sense. It is so poorly conceived, and maybe even worse as far as the execution of it. So that was really just annoying the shit out of me throughout. I was like, am I supposed to believe this detective? This is bad. Just like everything in this movie is poor. Not only, and I think when it comes to poor movies, like when you're watching a movie that's just bad, any little extra thing that happens in it is too much. Like, for instance, you can see the camera crew's reflection in some of the glasses, in some of the windows in cars in this movie. And it's annoying because it's in a shitty movie. So it just feels like everything is shitty, and then this is adding to it. Like, you can't even, fucking shoot this movie right. But when it happens so clearly in a movie like Halloween, when Loomis is down by the train tracks and he finds the mechanic's bodies over here in the bushes, and he finds the robes off on the ground. He's on the phone talking to people, and they walk away, and there's clearly a reflection of the camera crew in that phone booth. But it's in Halloween, so it's like, who gives a shit? Like, it's a little mess up. Oh well, they didn't have another shot. But for some reason, when it's in a movie like this, it's like, oh, God, you guys can't even shoot a fucking movie correct either. You can't write a good movie. You can't act. You can't fucking do this. You can't fucking do that. It's like that extra little poke at you, and you're just like, no. The scene where he's walking through Mardi Gras, or he's walking through the streets of, now I'm sitting here, I'm trying to think of where this movie even takes place. LA? I think, that's how much I wasn't in this movie. I can't even tell you where the fucking movie took place now. Oh shit. When he's looking for her in the streets, and he thinks he sees her, and he turns the person around, and it's a fucking dude in a wig. That was the hardest I laughed in this movie, for sure. That it was like, really, you can't tell the difference between that guy's body and this girl from Baywatch's body from behind. Oh, what a terrible entry into this. This was a disgrace to this franchise. What a shitty way to end this. The second one had a great ending. The whole burning his paintings to end him, it was like, we broke the mirrors to end him. Like, we already did this. He's ended. Let's let it go. All right, guys, done with the Candyman series.